Hi everyone, this is Amelia Hernandez. I am here sharing my semester project. So I'm going to share that real quick. Hopefully you can see what I'm showing you. It's about criminal justice policy when it comes to sex work and social work involved in that. It's an intersectional view of sexual assault on sex workers. The issue is that this population is particularly criminalized and put at risk to experience stigmas, violence, and have more barriers accessing resources and services to get out of it. The agency I wanted to focus on is called SWAP, Sex Workers Outreach Program. Why should we? Well, ultimately, it's because that equality matters. Martin Luther King said, ultimately, a great nation is a compassionate nation. No individual or nation can be great if it does not have concern for its animals or its weakest members, the least of these. I think it says that best, basically, that, it's going to show we can judge ourselves by how we treat the least, the ones that are the poorest, the ones that are struggling the most. How do we treat them? That shows us how great of a nation we are. So targeted sex workers are mainly 16 to 24 years old. It's our sisters, daughters. It's sometimes our mothers or future mothers. And they're mainly the victims of this sexual abuse. Some subgroups that make up this group include the migrant workers, street-based workers, LGBTQ+, and those in poverty. Poverty is a big player in this. So two scholarly article sources. One was a stigma, power, and the specificity of sex work. It showed that stigma is a power that's directly working against sex workers. It's a barrier to them receiving help after an assault has happened. This power is wielded by patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy, and cis heteronormative men that operate with particular intensity, exacerbating these situations. The other article was evaluating public attitudes and arguments for sex work decriminalization. So in this article, 519 adults took an online survey regarding decriminalization of sex work. And according to that survey, the public is more open to the idea of decriminalizing sex work. However, it is not in favor of legalizing it. And I think this is an important distinction to make. We're not saying that it's okay, go ahead, do this. What we're saying is, well, we're not going to prosecute because we understand, that there are a lot of factors happening in this that we need to get a hold of first before we start, just prosecuting everybody. In fact, I was told by the person that I interviewed that New York City's district attorney is not processing sex workers. So it's starting to change. As of now, the law has no guarantee protection for sex workers. But however, many people are working to decriminalize this. So one group is social workers and counselors who are directly working with clients who often have waited years to even report, sometimes decades before reporting. Another group is hospitals and social workers at hospitals. They work directly with survivors right after an assault has occurred, and they've been working towards decriminalizing it. Certain members of law enforcement or certain court members who deal with trying to prosecute court cases, they work with survivors in the legal arena. And then other groups or organizations who are working directly with survivors of sex work and former sex workers who have been incarcerated due to sex. This is the group that I'm going to focus on today. This line I found, it's called SWAP, Sex Workers Outreach Program. This community support line provides a volunteered staff warm line where current and former sex workers, as well as activists and other seeking peer support, can access direct support. It includes rape counseling, crisis intervention, and the help hotline. It also provides support to sex workers behind bars through a pen pal program, and those reentering society after being incarcerated. So the warm line, like I said, it provides a 24/7 line for sex workers to call and receive crisis interventions. The crisis counseling is the most essential. And then after this counseling, they're connected to social workers who can provide case management services that can connect those clients with housing and more counseling and other services they might require. Former and struggling sex workers may call this line at any time for support. After being incarcerated for sex work, SWAP assists clients re-entering society by connecting them to communities, people within communities. And they also realize at this point, they're probably going through like a halfway house or something like that, and they might need other supports. So they offer things like providing them a phone or care packages that have hygiene items in it, you know. When it comes to responsibilities of SWAP line workers, they most essentially provide the crisis counseling, as we've mentioned several times, for the case managers to follow up with, and organizational lobbying for decriminalization of sex work. As a group, the entire organization works towards that. When it comes to incarcerated people, their responsibilities are keeping up on the mailing lists, like the pen pals for the former sex workers incarcerated. And also an Amazon wish list is available. And then they can connect them to the community after. When it comes to how this organization is set up, this agency's hierarchy, it was founded in 2003 by Robin Few and Stacy Swim. Underneath them were two directors, one for funds, getting donations and dealing with the payroll and all that. And then the other one is a director and they sometimes swap positions trying to help each other. Below that is the program coordinator, and that is the guy that I talked to. His name was Alan. And he also says there's maybe an accountant and a few social workers that are kind of on his level. And then below that are just volunteers nationwide, lots of people helping out. He says that his job satisfaction is huge. There's little advancement, no real advancement. There's only a few level positions, maybe $30,000 a year availability in pay. Most people don't volunteer for the love of the work. I mean, most people do volunteer, but they do it for the love of the work and for supporting those people who were victimized. For most people, volunteering, this is what he says is going to be called a passion project. So if you want to volunteer, you must go through a screening and a training first. There are volunteers from all over the nation, and this can be done remotely. So although it's a nonprofit business, it's based out of Florida, and you could do it too. When it comes to the data that's used to evaluate, SWAP used to have money coming in from a federal government grant. And when that was happening, they had to show how many calls they were getting and aggregate, I can't say that word, amalgamate from which areas they were coming from. However, since Trump cut off federal funds to help these mental health organizations, including this organization, data has not been required to be gathered. Data is no longer being evaluated, and it's harder for the agency to be more effective helping clients when they don't have those funds available. The program coordinator, Alan, said that he takes calls from all over the United States. He's excited that he started even getting them from Hawaii, Alaska, even two from Guam. So it's helping. What kind of barriers or stigma barriers do clients most commonly report? He says that it's the stigma from society that's the biggest one. that stigma is stuck to the police like glue. It becomes he said, she said. They dismiss these cases. They don't take them seriously. You say, oh, she should have known better, or, you know, you get involved with sex work, this is your fair consequence, you know, just saying that that's it, you know. In regards to that, he also said that when it comes to the police and the social justice system, it's mostly a boys' club, which is one huge problem. We can't really get in and fix it too much. Lawyers, judges, court members, jury members, a lot of them are contributing to this little boys' club. Also, the types of violence that are being experienced most, he said, is domestic violence. Meaning that these sex workers are like strippers or escorts who have boyfriends or pimps that beat them. They get beaten, they go make them engage in sexual work, and then they devalue them after, beat them again, you know, and this is a cycle that keeps going on and on. The police in these situations see that the domestic violence as the lesser of the problems compared to sex work that's accompanying it. So, you know, they're like, whatever. Oh, you hit her, fine. But what? You know, you're doing sex work. Let's prosecute her. You know, they see that as the bigger deal. And in addition, there have been reports directly to Allen that police are even blackmailing the sex workers for sex, telling them that, hey, if you do this sex act, then I won't take you to jail. So even the police are directly involved in, you know, perpetuating this problem. How do stigma and criminalization affect whether clients seek help, report crimes, or access services? So clients will fear the stigma about people finding out that they are doing sex work, and so they will not report it due to public persecution like that and unforeseen repercussions. Clients will not trust the police or law enforcement to do the right thing or take them seriously because of stigma the law enforcement tends to have. So when it comes to criminalization, many of the crimes go unreported and even increase in frequency, increase in intensity. Serial rapists continue to get away with the crimes by targeting sex workers. You know, Alan told me that one guy had to be reported over 30 times before they prosecuted him because they don't take sex workers' cases that seriously. 30 times. So what kind of skills or values do we think that are most important for social workers or clients who experience stigma, violence, or criminalization? Empathy is the biggest, especially because of burnout. You have to remember why you're doing this and be able to feel what the other person's feeling. Otherwise, it may be too much for you. Also, that you're non-judgmental. You can't be really judgmental in a job like this. He said that training in intersectionality of a lot of different topics really helps. Like, you have to know how sex work relates to race, to poverty, to women in sex work, to men in sex work, LGBTQ plus communities, disabled, equality laws, police enforcement, court systems, jail living, etc. All of that plays a part. And in conclusion, what policy changes would help social workers and community agencies better protect these adults from violence? Policies that are non-judgmental, that are set up to not judge as much, but to help. Second, decriminalization without legalization. That's the big one everybody's going for. And then third, he had a great idea. He recommends using a place called ZEP, Z-E-P-P wellness trainings. He says doing that throughout the country is what he wishes would happen. These trainings were made up by sex workers for therapists and for social workers. It's a 5-week, 1-day-a-week course that helps sensitize others towards the reality of sex work issues. So yeah, it seems like all of those things are going to be useful when we're looking at, you know, what can we do to help? So that was my presentation, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed that. You learned a lot. Yeah, I called the swap line myself just to find out all this information and talk to the program coordinator. So if you want to get involved, feel free to get online, SWOP. You got it. Have a great day.